grownfolksmusic.com.
So let's talk about what you do as a publicist from day to day.
Oh, it depends. But basically, day to day, it starts very much so middle of the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I happen to reach over my phone and kind of skim through emails and, see what happened over the night or whatever, then go back to sleep. But the moment I'm up, it's literally going through emails, writing to-do lists for the day, which would have started from the night before. And the list gets long. And, and it's more so just who am I following up with early in the morning, who seems to have an issue in responding later in the day. So it's very much sort of strategizing, okay, I'm going to have my email ready to go so that at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm pressing send since it takes you forever to get back to me. So it's really an email game. It's a phone call game. And then, of course, you're dealing with time zones. But at the end of the day, it's just all about figuring out, getting to your computer and just clearing that email box and, flashing some that need to be priority for the day. And then, you start tracking. I've been hitting this person for a week. Where are they? What's going on? The client is harassing you, like, what's happening with this? And you have 0 answers. So a lot of times, it's very frustrating when all you can say, I'm not interested, or hit me back next week or something. So that's basically the day in the scheme of things. But with that comes, again, calling, emailing, and just tracking your priorities. I mean, some projects do not require as much crazy day-to-day, where you can basically reach, put something out today and then follow up again in 2 days or 3 days. Other projects are very much so require your attention every day, every hour of the day. And that becomes the priority, whether it's because it's album release week or in another case, whether it's opening night or whatever the case may be. So, priorities for the week changes every week.
Well, let's backtrack for a second, if we can.
Okay.
How did you get into this business? How did you start?
Interestingly enough, I actually, I've been in the game since I was 15. I started off as a backup dancer. So I was in, on a bunch of different tours, from Brandy to Immature to John Cicada to TLC. So through those younger years, I was in it. Obviously, being young, getting my feet wet in the game, didn't really know the politics ins and out or whatever, other than the fact that, you never burn any bridges. And I think that's what always stood in the back of my mind, not really understanding what that was. And so basically, make a long story short, in the middle of a tour, I dislocated my back. So I stopped, obviously, having to dance. And I was actually in Germany when it happened. So they had to ship me back to the States. Here I am, 20 years old, not knowing what's next, what's going to happen. But I was able to remain in contact with a couple of label representatives that would be on the road with us. So we, as a family, you become a family on the road. So everyone stays in contact, X, Y, and Z. Obviously, I couldn't dance. I was given an opportunity to work at a label in the marketing department. I was, marketing and promotions, and it was very much so like I have no experience in that world, but okay, whatever you need. So kind of sort of it was like an internship, but then within like a month and a half, it became a paid thing. And, and I was loving it and I was enjoying it. And the good thing about it that I really loved was the fact that I was able to get back on the road. But at this point, behind the scenes, and slowly but surely, I was able to kind of do a little bit of road management / promotions for the label. And then eventually I was on the road with 69 Boys and 95 South and those kids, and those folks, and basically just grew and went from Atlantic to LaFace back to Arista, and did the label gamut for a little bit, and eventually realized that what I was already doing in a marketing promotion kind of thing was similar to PR. And my only issue with PR was, you always had to know how to, well, in my mind was you had to learn how to like really speak well and write well. And that wasn't really my thing. Just because, again, I was all into the creative. Like I hated school. I loved going to school just because I was able to be in my art. I went to LaGuardia Performing Arts in New York. So I was able to, excuse me, so I was able to live in my moment. But on the flip side of it, I hated all those subjects and all that other stuff. So not really my thing. So that was always like my fear in the sense of pronunciation and grammar and all that other good stuff. So never really focused on it. But then after seeing that I was kind of sort of doing it already, I said, okay, well, let's try it. And eventually ended up opening up my own agency after, stopping through other PR agencies for like a couple of months and learning a little bit of the ropes. And then it was just like, okay, I can kind of do this. But of course, still not knowing what was coming ahead. And, and you can just never foresee the future. But yeah, so basically started as a dancer.
What did you see? You said you kind of came through some other agencies. What did you see, or have you seen that you kind of stored in the back of your mind, kind of made a mental note to say, when I start my firm, I'm going to do, or when I start my firm, I'm going to make sure I don't do X, Y, and Z?
Interesting, because I never saw it as starting my firm, honestly. I think it was just a situation of, I'm working for someone, you want to pay me $500, I'm doing all of the work, I'm working 2 or 3 accounts, and you treat me like crap. And you're supposed to be a friend of mine. So, but I thank you for the opportunity. But in doing so, and then basically just doing it over and over, and it's like, okay, well, maybe I should just try this for myself, because why am I going to go work for someone that's treating me like crap, is not paying me, and I'm doing all the work? So it became a situation where, shoot, I'll do it and get the money myself. And that's kind of sort of how it started. And then it was just like, again, being in contact with certain people and already building those types of relationships, it just became, okay, I could do this. And again, not knowing what the future was going to hold and what was going to come with it. And of course, during that time was when, we started walking into recession areas and those kind of things, and the country was changing. So what was kind of sort of something that was straightforward with a little bit of up and down, is it was either up or it was really, really down. So it was about taking those things into consideration and falling. And I mean, and that's the thing of working for yourself. It's that, that constant weekly or biweekly paycheck is not there. So, it was really challenging. But at the same time, I just kept pushing and pushing, and thank God, to the times I'm still pushing.
I think that's everybody. There's constantly a push.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I think, to go back to your question, I think it was more so of the way of treating people and the way of treating your staff. I think, just because I was young or not really knowing the ropes, the way that I was spoken to and or treated at times was a little demeaning, and I'm like, I'm not here for that. And and I was doing it for the love. Like, I really wanted to learn. I was really hungry to learn, and eventually I did find my passion. But it was just definitely the way of treating your employees, and that was something that really stayed with me.
As an outlet, I can attest to your truth and your honesty in what you just said, because we get a lot of communication, right, even for our little website. And sometimes we read some of these press releases or these inquiries, if you will, or just requests to post an artist or to speak to an artist, and it isn't polite and it isn't professional. So I can testify, if you will, to, what you just said as being true, that I can see that there is an effort of professionalism and manners in the way that you conduct your business. And in all of our interactions, you've always been pleasant, and we consider you a friend. Because we have some publicists that are, wow, like they're rude, or they're pushy, or when you read certain press releases, it's the job of the publicist, to shed the best light on the client naturally. But sometimes we read some of this stuff and it's like, well, let us listen to it first and let us draw some conclusions. Like, before you tell us you have the next Prince, before you tell us you have the next. So, for you to have fallen into this, you're doing a great job. I guess I said all that to say, for you to have fallen into this, I would have never known that this wasn't your area, because you have a grasp on how to present the client and how to present your firm and how to present yourself. And it doesn't take anything to be pleasant, and you've always been so pleasant and always responding to us. And so I appreciate that, that side of it.
Thank you. My pleasure. And we appreciate you guys. And and I think that that's the thing. And another thing that if one thing that I always tell a new generation, as obviously there's always someone coming behind you, is that I learned that no outlet is too small. And I say that in the sense that...
Say it again, please. We get this so much because we're small.
But it's weird that, it's just crazy, because I've always, and I had to learn this, but in learning so, I take it with me, and it's my everyday, and, I get a bunch of different email inquiries of people that I'm not familiar with, but I entertain to the best that I can and on the client's behalf. But no outlet is too small, or no journalist is too new. And I say that because there are so many outlets that perhaps start now or started small, and they may have just 1,000 viewers or visits or whatever the case may be, but you never know that person's hunger and that person's journey on what they're about to take. And yes, they might have started small, but on the right situation and the right opportunity, they meet the right person or connect with the right thing. Now, all of a sudden, that small outlet now is part of an empire. It's part of a bigger brand that goes from 1,000 to 1 million. And I've seen that several times. So being disrespectful to a smaller outlet, and then that's the same small outlet all of a sudden becomes a big deal because they have, these affiliations. It's weird to now say, hey, so we haven't spoken in 2 years. And I know you've been emailing me, but, now that you at AOL or now that you at so-and-so, do you want to have a conversation? And I've seen that happen with other people. And my thing is this: listen, if I can fit you into a press day, I will. Obviously, a lot of times, you have artists that you have to remind them that in your case, no outlet is too small, no radio station is too small. And, at times I know that I can't give the A-list to just everybody and anybody because there wouldn't be enough hours in the day. However, let's figure something out. I'll give you a meet and greet. I'll give you a quick one question after a concert. We'll figure something out, because a lot of times the artists are like, well, this is my hour off and this is my, my day off. I don't want to do nothing. I get it. I completely get it. But there are times that we need to speak to the people. And, and that's where sometimes it could be a little frustrating, but, it just depends on the artist. It depends on the client. But back to my motto, no outlet is too small. I've seen it happen a million times with a bunch of journalists that are now huge. And had I shaded them, for lack of better words, or looked down on them because they didn't have, 500,000 views that month, I would look real crazy right now. And that's not me. And yeah. It all comes back full circle. I will tell you that much.
Thank you for mentioning the client, because that leads to my next question. What should or can a client do to make the most out of a relationship with a publicist?
Be honest. I think it's all about honesty, because I am, quote unquote, your voice, and it's a little bit different now because we have social media. Back then we didn't. So we were the epitome of being that voice for the talent. But in this case, we have social media. So, of course, they interact with their fans. They're posting the new shoes or this, whatever, just left the supermarket. I think all those moments are cool because it shows personality. And then at the same time, it also shows the press. I think a lot of times, a lot of media outlets, what they're doing now is going on clients' Instagram and studying their day. And by doing so, it makes them walking into an interview a little bit more easier, because I saw that you went to the grocery store and the produce section is your favorite section. Like those little tidbits, it's what the talent is sharing on social media, not kind of sort of paying attention who's really watching. But then here it is, days later, you're about to have an interview, and the interviewer mentions that. It takes the talent immediately off guard and in a better, comfortable thing, because you really took time to research me and know that the produce department is my best department at the supermarket, if that's the case. So I think that it's all about communication. And I think that being that voice for them and knowing X, Y, and Z, I let them be honest. I put the quote out there. They write it. I may clean it up a little bit, but I let them be the voice, because ultimately, after me, they still have to have that voice with the press, and they still have to have that voice with the audience that have been following them or just started following them because of a post on on a blog or a magazine or whatever the case may be. So it's very important to be honest, and I think that and honest in the sense of, Ray, I messed up last night. You might get something. There were people videotaping me. Okay,
right. Well,
call
that
me
was
3
where I
o'clock in the
was
morning.
getting ready to ask you.
Yeah, call me 3 o'clock in the morning.
The flip side, where you have a fire starter, where and don't name any names, but where you have some stuff really go down because the artist has this direct communication to the world, to the fans, and Facebook Live and Instagram stories and things like that. What do you do when they start fires in the middle of the night?
Obviously wonder why is my phone going off, and then just sit here and say, oh God, here we go. And I mean, I've dealt with a couple from like naked photo leaks and all this other stuff. It's per case basis. I think it's per case basis. It's immediately speaking to the client and say what really happened. Don't fluff it. Tell me what really happened. And then looking at whatever it is that everybody else is looking, and then figuring it all out. And just trying to find the best way that it's still honest and truthful, but trying to figure out how to say it or the reasoning or but at the end of the day, it's about if it's there, it's there. There's no way to hide it. You knocked this person over the head, or you said what you said. There's no in between. But let's figure it out. Why? Help me understand so that I can try to help them understand. Well, he was talking about his kid, and kids are off limits, and whatever the case may be. But it totally varies. And some of them are just like, dude, are you really serious right now? But it's why we're hired. And thankfully, I haven't had one of those in a minute. And those, at least with my current roster, has not happened as of late in a while. So I haven't experienced those kind of things other than sometimes Twitter fights. And I'm like, stop now. Unplug it, uninstall from your phone for the next day and keep it moving, because then people start retweeting, and then
Screenshotting.
folks sitting at home. Exactly. It becomes too much and too complicated. So the moment I know that it is, I'm like, okay, stop now, and move on. So
have you ever had to fire a problem child? Have you ever had to fire a client?
Yes. Yeah. I actually had 3 of them in a group. But I won't mention names.
No,
but if folks follow my, if they follow my journey and who I work with, they might be able to pull it together and figure it out.
Well, let's get to some of the fun stuff. Let's talk about music.
Okay.
Because we're a music website, and we like to ask our guests about music. Obviously, we do a lot of artist interviews, but what we are trying to do with these podcasts as well is kind of explore a different side, people in the industry, revolving around the industry and behind the scenes in the industry, but also get at your musical taste and what you love about music as you work in this industry. So my first question is, what's your favorite song ever?
Oh, I have several. And off the top of my head, I would just bunch them in a bunch. Tons of Mariah's unreleased singles that have made albums. Like, this woman's catalog is insane. So yes, I'm a lamb. We'll start there. But there's so many songs that that were never singles, but were, obviously part of albums that are just completely therapeutic for me. Completely, it takes me through the whole journey. And of course, don't give me a glass of wine or something and it's a problem. but like Wayward Child, Outside. I mean, like from the Charm Bracelet album, Subtle Invitation. I mean, and that even wasn't even a sad song, but just some of those songs. I mean, like I literally sit here and go through her stuff and just like bananas. But I like a little bit of everything. I mean, for the last week I went back to Jessie J's album, which I think she is phenomenal. And she's just her riffs, her runs like crazy. Same thing with Jasmine. Yeah, exactly. Same thing with Jasmine Sullivan. Of course, Brandy, and when Brandy and I go back from being teenagers, and her being a boss of mine kind of thing. But then, you have the Whitney Houstons that I literally just sit here in that Preacher's Wife soundtrack still takes me through it. That Waiting to Exhale still takes me through it. So I really love female singers. In the male category, Brian McKnight always has been a favorite.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Like old school Brian, it was like that man could not do no wrong. Boys to Men, like Wanye, sickening. Like when that man starts singing and it's just like that mama song, like that whole, listen, crazy. So, I am a fan of soul music. I am a fan of music. I'm a fan of the actual musicianship. Obviously not to plug my own artist, but obviously in preparation for next week, I'm listening to Josh X and been rocking with the mixtape that we're dropping next week for a minute and just listening to him. He's not like the singer that you will hear, or quote unquote the voice, but his lane is so different. And the fact that he is a classically trained pianist, and is able to blend, just the whole R&B thing with the old school stuff. Like he has a lot of little samples that he's used of 90s R&B in his music. So it takes you back. So you're like in a new wave zone, but then you hear that Jagged Edge sample in the back and you're like, oh my God, like this is crazy. And then the lyrical content of it is very New Day language, but it's very much so universal in the sense of love and positivity and stuff that every day we go through, whether, we broke up or I messed up and I'm telling you you're going to take me back, or I'm quote unquote low key feeling you, so it's like the lingo, the new lingo, but in a cool kind of way because it's still giving you that throwback R&B music. So yeah. And of course, I mean, one of my favorites of all time also is Joe. And again, not because of the client, but but I think Joe and Brian McKnight and Donnell Jones, before I even worked with him, it was just like, oh my God, like getting that phone call that I was working that project was amazing. Obviously the Tony Braxton one was like even crazier, but the Donnell one was like, wow, like really I'm working with someone that I really, 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 really admire. Because Donnell, that Where I Want to Be record, sickening still to this day. It clearly will, Now Mariah obviously hasn't out and about doing her thing with his single, but at the same time, it's like that's the kind of R&B music that I listen to.
What's the first album you ever bought for yourself with your money?
Wow. I want to say, and I could be mistaken, but I want to say Music Box, Mariah Carey.
And you know what? You were talking about the songs that weren't singles. I really like. Isn't Music Box the last track on that album?
On which one? Oh, on Music Box? Let's see.
Yes. It's the last. I don't remember if it's the last one, but I like All I Ever Wanted. And,
oh my God!
And I think I like Music Box. I think that's the name of the song as well, and I think it's the very last track. On that album. You were talking about the ones that were singles, and that's the first album I thought of. Music Box.
But from the Butterfly album, like she had so many, the charm bracelet, and then it's the thing that a lot of people, clown her, and I get it to an extent, but it's like, listen, you cannot mess with that woman's talent and that songwriting. When I tell you, she is like an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
If you want words,
it's funny. It's funny that you say that because we have not to self-promote, but we have a podcast about a few of her recordings that had anniversaries, either last year or 15.
Really?
And we said that same thing, like, yeah, we get some of the clowning, pretty much like what you just said. We get the clowning, but you're going to have to give up the respect as well.
Right.
As far as what she accomplished, like she ran the 90s and the song, like you said, the songwriting chops and all of that. You have to respect it. The outfit, you may not like the cleavage, everything, whatever. You can clown if you want to, but at the end of the day, you have to sit down and learn something from her as a professional. So if you ever, not that you I know you're a busy man, but we have I think it's all in one podcast. I think we tackle two albums. I know we tackle the Emancipation of Mimi.
Okay.
And then I think the first one, because one was turning 25 and one was turning 10, so it was 15. It was 2015 that we did that podcast. So it's on iTunes. Check us out. And it's free.
I definitely would do that.
Check us out.
I definitely would do that.
What's your guilty pleasure song?
It depends. But I literally I get very forgetful, and sometimes I it really depends. Like as of late, it's been Through the Fire, Jessie J, with 2 Chainz. That right there. If I'm going somewhere, I'm putting that on, and I'm lit. Sometimes Britney, like this Glory album, I really, really, really love. I think it was great. And she has some great songs on there that are really cool. And I actually just saw her in Vegas too while I was there. And dope. I mean, dope entertainer, I should say. No, and she sung for 3 seconds, if that.
Right.
But but everything else,
right, but she gave
amazing.
it to you. She gave you everything else.
Exactly. I came for the lights and the bells and the whistles, and I got that.
Okay.
But it really depends. I'm a mood type of person. I mean, sometimes it's just like since I really love R&B music, like I even work out to R&B. I work out to Mariah sometimes. Like I work out to Kelly Price sometimes, and you're like, okay, so where's the doom doom doom? Like, I'm good sometimes because it's just the zone and listening to the lyrics and singing along with them and trying to hit some notes and stuff. I'm there. Like, that gets me going. But of course, a lot of times it's also like the Mary J. Blige Dance for You remix album, which was Dance for Me, I think it's called. And it's literally a bunch of house mixes. And one, I like it because it's like, some of those songs are like 9-11 minutes. So, you're still on one song and you're like, okay, 10 minutes down, 5 more songs and I should be good and get out of here when you're at the gym.
Right.
So, so that helps. But I love house mixes, especially from like the old school mixers of the 90s and the early 2000s that, remix the Whitneys and the Mariahs and the Tonys and the Mary J's of the world, like the Peters and the Vasquez and the Hectors and even Deborah Cox. Like those mixes, the way they were then to what's, basically being spun around now, it's like, okay, cute, but I'm good.
Right.
Maybe it's because it's been done, but it's nothing like those mixes when they come on and, old school Sound Factory in New York and just get home 5 o'clock in the morning, like, what just happened? I can't even walk. I'm so drenched. But you just had a blast.
Do you have a favorite song lyric? Like a favorite lyric ever?
Yes.
You do?
I do. Hold on. Let me see. Wayward. Yep. And it was, I believe it's from the outside. It's from Outside Butterfly. And it was like, basically I was a wayward child standing out. Of course I can't even say it now. But but it's Outside. The song is called Outside. And it's literally
Mariah Carey.
Yes, it's from Butterfly.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm trying to pull it up. Of course, they have all this. Like, they don't play with this woman and her copyright situation. Like, really? Like, I'm not getting Google. Like, wow.
So you're not going to even give her no leeway on it, huh? I mean, make sure you have it correct.
Exactly. Oh, okay. It was a displaced little girl worked years inside, wishes to materialize. She presses on and day to keep on living and tries so many ways to keep her soul alive. Like, it was just so many, like, that song is just, like, crazy. Like, to the point that I literally, I have someone working on actual art. I already have it printed out, but they're actually working on the art itself because I'm actually tattooing it on the side of my left hand side of my rib cage. Yes.
Okay.
Like, yeah. So thank you for that question because yes, I do. I mean, I have plenty other ones, but of course, I'm like, I don't want to walk around looking like a dictionary. But I'm also still standing by Monica and Ludacris.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
That
wow.
Ludacris,
yeah.
That Ludacris verse, listen, that thing right there is something else. Yeah, like that right there.
That song
is
was
like
not promoted enough. That song wasn't promoted enough because that's one of my go-to songs when I'm really, really, really feeling down. And when she says, "You can bet your last that my head won't hit the floor." Never. And I'm like, this song should have been, I mean, they had that little underground reality show around it and the release of the single, but it didn't really, it didn't really take off.
I think that
she needs to bring that one back.
Exactly. She needs to just go back in and just. I mean, because of her kids are kind of grown now, I'm sure she can put them in the studio and they can do a little something, and she should just re-release that and just add her kids to it. And obviously that's her motivation and stuff. But it's like, add the kids and re-release that record, and I promise you that record would just, like, especially in these crazy times that we're in, and everybody's dealing with this and that and the other. That song it's literally a morning mantra, like a must. Like, okay, today I'm going to do this, and you play it, and you got to see that thing. Don't let me be driving.
The world, right?
Exactly, But yes, that song right there is completely insane to me.
What's your definition of grown folks music?
I think the definition is connecting. I think it connects. I think it's the connection between the music itself, the lyrics, and the emotion. And you're not going to connect with every song that you hear on a random day, that one simple song that was never that thing for you, on that random day, all of a sudden it's speaking. You always fast forward that song, but on that day, it's just playing, or you're typing, or you're, doing work, and it just starts resonating. And I think that's the connection of what makes a song. Taking it back to the, to the phrase "grown folks," I think that's when you say, "Is that what they used to talk about? Grown? You don't know about this grown folks stuff?" Because it's a different feeling, and a lot of times we sing along to songs because we like them. We a lot of times don't even pay attention to what we're singing. We just know the words, but we have not studied the words, and those words have not connected with our soul. But until that day, and you feel that thing, and you're like, I have a different meaning for that song now. Mm-hmm. That, to me, you had a grown folk music experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the part where we shout it out. And what that means is that you're going to tell us who you are and a little bit about your company and how we can get in touch with you, how people can follow you, follow what you're doing, or maybe some aspiring artists are listening or will be listening, and how they can get on board.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'm Ra-Fael Blanco. I am the VP of Media Promotion, the VP of Media Relations and Communications for 2R's Entertainment and Media PR out of New York, a one-stop boutique, PR boutique firm. We specialize in music, sports, entertainment, and branding. And, you can catch me on Twitter at T as in Tom, W as in water, O as in Oscar, R as in Ralph, S as in Sam, ENT, like Edward Nancy Tom, or on Instagram, which is Ray, RAY _THE _rebel, and on Facebook under Ra-Fael Blanco, or 2R's Entertainment and Media PR Facebook page. But, definitely, hopefully I was able to be a vessel of fun, and yes, PR doesn't have to be so serious. I take pride in doing my work and trying to be the best that I can be, but at the same time living and having fun, and at the same time just being true to myself. I'm not that corporate dude that has to wear the suits and tie. I feel that my job should speak for itself, as long as I love doing what I do and doing it with love and treating people with love and respect. And it should be fun. It doesn't have to be so stuffy. But some people like that. That's just not me. But, I'm just a cool dude that's thankful for my blessings, because, the journeys go up and down. And the fact that I can still be here and be speaking with you guys and still, be encouraged to continue and encouraging others, I'm thankful.
GrownFolksMusic.com